1950s, peace and prosperity returned for most in the United States after more than a decade of economic depression and, well, global world wars. So folks set about pursuing the American dream, buying their own homes and raising families. Life seemed just grand, and the future seemed, well, bright, since we seem to be able to accomplish great things, just about anything, even harnessing the power of the atom for the forces of good. But as safe and prosperous as things seemed, there was an undercurrent of paranoia, paranoia embedded deep within the collective American psyche, a stream of fear running up and down the spines of the American people, as if some terrible thing was waiting and preparing to strike, and would destroy all our happiness and safety. To many, that terrible thing had a name: international communism. Now, this soft white underbelly of fear wasn't exactly anything new. For example, in the halls of Congress, the House Un-American Activities Committee had been in business since 1934. It comes in with the production code, which also came in around 34. At one point, the HUAC even hinted that little Shirley Temple, the biggest box office star of the Depression years, well, they hinted that Shirley Temple harbored communist leanings. They even called the tiny starlet that little pinko. We kid you not, this actually happened. Now, Tail Gunner Joe McCarthy's anti-communist confidentials were well established since he had been befriended by the Kennedys, JFK and RFK, staunch anti-communists themselves. Joe, together we shall fight the communists with vigor. Well, but as a political issue, anti-communism was simply too vague and abstract for most voters. That was until the night of February 9th, 1950, when Tail Gunner Joe gave an otherwise innocuous speech to a women's Republican club in Wheeling, West Virginia. Now, I'm going to quote here. I have here in my hand a list of 205 men in the State Department that were known by the Secretary of State as being members of the Communist Party, and who nevertheless are still working and shaping policy in the State Department. Well, at last, said the Republican women at the gathering, specific proof of communist infiltration and subversion. Well, the ladies went wild. McCarthy made a similar speech in Salt Lake City, Utah, and by the time he returned to Washington, D.C., the press had gone into a frenzy, and newspapers from all over the country started printing his accusations. Tail Gunner Joe was now an instant phenomena, a superstar. But there was a bit of a problem, since the number of communists kept on changing and changing. First he said 76 commies, right? No, he said it was 49. Oh, wait a minute, he said 14. Well, many newspaper men couldn't help but notice that something funny was going on here, because every time they asked to see the list of commies, Senator McCarthy gave one excuse after another. Tough luck, boys. I left the commie list in my other suit. Now, if any reporter was persistent and kept on asking questions or questioning his accusations, McCarthy played his one and only card, the red card. He would label the journalist a communist, therefore ruining his career. Now, Senator Tail Gunner Joe found himself, as I mentioned, an instant superstar, and he loves it. Now, the Korean War, essentially World War II and a half, was being fought at the time, and fear of communism was everywhere. And his claims about communist infiltration scared the shit out of the American public even more. Through fear and publicity, the senator from Wisconsin became one of the most powerful men in Washington, D.C. He ruled as an angry, vengeful god who took delight in destroying the careers and lives of countless people. Many who felt themselves caught in McCarthy's iron grip pointed fingers at others in order to save themselves. But there was still something weird in the air, since the number of communists still kept on changing. Fellas, says McCarthy to the press, I have here a telegram to President Truman naming 57 communists. Now, now, you may wonder why he keeps saying the number 57, because it's easy to remember. He thinks of Heinz 57 varieties, the ketchup, the sauce, whatever. That's the number that he usually plays. How many communists, Joe? Asked the newspapers. So Tail Gunner Joe gave another speech. I have here the names of 14 communists. Finally, he brought his allegations to his colleagues in the Senate, and many people noticed something really strange was going on. I have pierced President Truman's iron curtain of secrecy, says Tail Gunner Joe, and found no fewer than 81 communists. Now, some of his fellow senators challenged McCarthy's fluctuating figures, but that didn't bother him. Exactly how many names does the senator from Wisconsin have? Asked one representative. Oh, let's stop this silly numbers game, answers Tail Gunner Joe. The public, sadly, either wouldn't or couldn't believe that McCarthy's, brazen charges were fraudulent. He must be telling the truth, they thought. He's a U.S. senator. And besides, a commie is a commie. Well, the Senate investigated and found that Tail Gunner Joe had uncovered exactly 0 communists. Nothing, nada, zilch. And yet, he remained unconcerned. It doesn't matter at all, said Tail Gunner, because I now have the name of the top Russian espionage agent in the United States. His name is Owen Latimer. Well, Latimer, he was a highly distinguished diplomat with an impeccable record.